Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Guy Goldman with us today. He's founder and CEO at Olive Diagnostics in Jerusalem, Israel. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico. Guy is an interesting guy. Has been a CEO and a VP sales at various company, a mentor at Techstar, managing director at various companies, studied at San Francisco State University in the 90s. Uh, Olive Diagnostics is basically a home-based diagnostic, and it's fundamental to healthcare digitization. It enables people to self-monitor for disease prevention and early detection. So this podcast is brought to you by podbuyer.com. If you want to start your own podcast to track potential clients, investors, partners, you can go to Podbuyer. We help you book at least 30 podcasts per month, take the full podcast management for you while you do the interviews and get leads and clients. Guy, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thank you. Good to be here. Uh, Guy Goldman, born in the United States, grew up in Israel, went back to the United States, like you said, to San Francisco for studies, studied computer science and physics. When you say in the 90s, it makes me sound like so freaking old. But it wasn't that long ago. It was at the late 90s, right before the 2000s. Um, so I think the what we're here to talk about is Olive Diagnostics, and just to give a little bit more reference, if I may. So Olive Diagnostics is a sensor that you put on the toilet, and what it does is, as a person's urinating into the toilet, it's doing urinalysis using pure optics, only optics, and it's able to check both the molecular composition of urine on the one hand, but also the urine characteristics. So stuff like, volume, pressure, color, all the characteristics of the urine stream. By doing that, what we're able to do is, and the goal of the company is to do early disease detection. So prior to feeling symptoms, you woke up this morning feeling really good, everything's fine. When you just told me you walked your dogs, but you might have kidney stones growing, you don't even know about it. And, the only time you're gonna know about it is when you wake up and your back's killing and, obviously you think you have cancer, you go to the doctor and he says, no, it's a kidney stone. And we can detect that weeks ahead of time and notify your physician, whomever needs to be notified that this is happening. And the doctors pretty much does the same treatment, but it's the treatment without you having to suffer. Now you're young and whatever, so a kidney stone is just a minor inconvenience. But think if you're like 92 years old, you know, that's hospitalization for at least 2 weeks. You have 20 symptoms, your dementia kicks in, you can't walk, you can't talk, you don't want to eat, it's all these things that happen that they have to deal with. Now, if they just had taken care of it before the symptoms appeared, it's no problem. So that's what we're trying to kind of do in big.
And why did you started that company precisely?
So it was actually a very personal need that I had. I was managing a fairly large company in London, and my family lived in Israel. And my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and so she had some surgeries, and she was undergoing chemotherapy. And I was far away, and being far away, I was always curious on how she's doing. And I found myself calling home 3 to 4 times a day just to see what's up with her, because I wanted to feel like I was a part and I was close. And it took maybe a week until my siblings, who were pretty much watching after her, said to me that, it's heartwarming how much you care and all that. We love it. But either come home or stop calling because you're driving us insane. And I know I was like, I was asking stupid questions. She had breakfast, yeah. What'd she have? Toast with cheese or butter? Like, who even cares? And I just felt like I couldn't get just information about her without calling. That was the only way I did it. And I surveyed the market because I didn't want to go home. London is an awesome city. I don't know if you spent time, but it's a
Yes.
really fun. Yeah. So I wasn't in a rush to go home, but on the other hand, I needed to know what's happening. And so shortly after she passed, I kind of felt like, anyone who's my age has parents who are plus minus their age, 92% of them are with chronic diseases of some sort. There's like this huge population that's just worried about their parents, and there's no way for them to monitor, except for like smartwatches. But it's great, that they have a pulse. Okay, great, Um, but other than that, you're not really getting information. So that's what was really the backdrop of starting Olive. That's why I started it.
But it wasn't your first health tech company, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I had nothing to do with health before. It's a monster, you know. And I was just speaking to someone today, and I said that yeah, it's there's so many hurdles, and so many barriers, and so much internal power structures. If you want to talk to the FDA, you have to have an FDA consultant because you can't understand them because there's no understanding, and you have to be a part of this kind of global ecosystem of the FDA to get in. And but on the other hand, the reward is so big. Like you're doing something so meaningful. Uh, and so if anyone's kind of contemplating on getting into it or stuff like that, I would say it's meaningful. And if you're kind of like looking for that in life, definitely health tech is a meaningful industry.
Right, but like you said, it's a monster. I mean, can be like monster big, right? But it can also be like a very tough dragon to slay. Why isn't this in every home? Is the question that I have for you because it's useful, right? And even me as a biohacker, I've been seeking these solutions for a while, not only for the urine analysis, but also the poop analysis, right? For the
Mhm.
gut health, which is so important, determines your energy level, your cognitive performances, and so forth. So why isn't that product in every home nowadays?
Well, so first of all, I hope it will be, and that's our vision. Okay. And the reason it is okay, so we're focused right now on the elderly population as our first initial market, but we've targeted about 20 different markets from nutrition to mental health, like you said. Cortisol in urine gives you a stress index, so you can see how stressed you are. To femtech, so ovulation, pregnancy, preeclampsia, you name it, there's hundreds. To safety at work, to drug and alcohol detection. It just goes on. So we do feel that there's an audience at pretty much every stage in life that this makes sense to have. So your question is why isn't it in every home? I'm asking the same question, you know, but it will get there. I think within, probably 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a standard part of the home kit. Your air conditioner, your washing machine, your dryer, and your Olive Diagnostics.
But why wouldn't like Siemens or a big health company deploy it before you do? That is part of the question. I think another answer of why is it in every home is cash and funding, right? It's incredibly hard to get like a hardware product off the ground. What do you think?
So, I mean, there's two different questions. Why isn't Siemens doing it?
Yep.
That's question one, and the other question is, well, how do you fund the activity? So I'm going to start with the first one, okay? When I speak about Olive Diagnostics, I always say that we didn't develop a new technology, okay? We're using a technology called spectroscopy. It's been around since the 60s. We developed a new science. Now, what's the difference? So a computer is a technology, and mathematics is the science that runs the computer. So spectroscopy is the technology, and we had to develop a unique science in order to run spectroscopy in our environment because nothing like this, spectroscopy is never done in movement. We're doing it when the urine's falling. So we're detecting horizontally 300,000 times a second. This hasn't been done before, these kind of things. You know, there's no geometrical shape to the drops. So And so all the spectroscopy science doesn't work for us. So we had to develop that from now. Um, Big companies are very, very focused on doing your analysis using chemistry. Okay. So imagine a stick that has like, 10 little squares on it, and you dip it into urine and it changes color, just like a pregnancy stick. But urine sticks have like 10 different molecules that they can detect. Now that's been around for 150 years. It's well validated and everyone uses it. And the big companies are focused on optimizing the chemistry analysis. We took a leap above all that and we leaped into pure optics, which has never been done before. It's never been, people didn't think, yeah, I'm not going to go into it, but it has to do with the wavelengths that we're using in water that it gets absorbed. There's a lot of technical stuff, but in general, no one's ever even thought about trying just pure optics. Um, so I don't think the big companies are focused on that. They're focused on the chemistry business. It's a big business, and they're doing billions of dollars a year, so it's working out just fine. Um, what we look is competition is no matter who starts and competes, because obviously once it's in the house, there will be competitors. But it took us 5 years to understand the data that's coming from our sensor. So the sensor wasn't very hard to develop. We knew what we wanted to do. But understanding the data, it's not something you can throw into a model and it's gonna figure it out for you because we're dealing with a problem that is so huge. It's 22 to the power of 35,000. It's just you can't just throw it into a model. So what you have to do is you have to do a lot of physics and chemistry. So those are the people that are working the company. They're physicists, they're chemists, you know, and they're developing an expert system. And
And
that experts, yeah.
in 5 years, was it the fastest path to get there? And the data analytics, did you use mostly AI to figure this out, or was it built or understood the traditional way, quote unquote?
So so in research, um, once you get to the solution, you're always like, why didn't we think about that before? So did it have to take 5 years? I don't know. We got lucky a lot of times, when someone forgot to turn off the light and it's like, oh, wait a minute, stop, 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 keep it on for a second. Look at that. That's weird. So we got lucky in certain ways. Um, no, as a CEO, I think it should have taken a year, but that's research and most of our money was put into research, not so much into development. And with regards to the systems that we use, so it depends on how you define AI. And I just had with an AI expert, I just had this conversation yesterday. And I said that there's this kind of feeling like a lot of people are putting into machine learning. They categorize that as AI. Okay. So no, we didn't use AI because AI can't help us. Because if you go on ChatGPT and you write real-time continuous urinalysis, you're going to get no results except for Olive because it doesn't exist you know but deep learning we did a lot.
So the analysis of many images compared to what a diseased urine, quote unquote, would look like, compared side by side, for example, or just feeding it tons of data, because it also analyzes the chemistry, right? Want to learn about like what is your focus, because you have hydration, you have pregnancy, right? You have all of these things. Is it like one device that tracks all of that and you're just trying to see where's the product market fit in all these features and problems that you're solving? Or are you like literally having one sensor per problem and feature?
That's a good question. So we're not there yet to completely answer that. I think what we're going to be looking from a structure perspective is we're going to have a group of people who are detecting new molecules. So the detection process and data gathering is its own process. So we'll have a group doing that, and then we'll have a group that's going to be centered around closing the loop on diseases. So if, for example, we're at a assisted living facility and they come back and they say, "Oh yeah, Mr. Smith had an enlarged bladder or whatever." Okay, and they put that back into the system, then we're going to look back at the data that was preceding that condition, in the urine. So I think we have a group that's going to be doing that, that's going to be taking the data collected and comparing it to different diseases. Um, and then the marketing will be taking those data points and finding a market fit for each one of those. You know, I don't think we're going to have Olive Diagnostics for, assisted living and then Olive Diagnostics for, athletes and all. I don't think we're going to split the company up, but I think we'll have heads for each one of these different disciplines.
Right, and any disease which you would prioritize over the others, like would you go after attacking one specific one, for example, ovarian cancer, vs I don't know, just kidney stones, which one would be the priority?
So, so to me, the biggest market, okay, is mental health monitoring. Okay, because right now there's a $262 billion a year in mental health intervention market. So that's yoga classes and gyms and therapists and all that. Now, there's no way today to check if what you're doing is working or not. Okay, so it could be that you running for 2 hours in the morning is less effective to reduce your stress than doing a 30-minute yoga class. Okay, but you have no way of knowing it. And so there's a $262 billion a year market that you have no way of checking if it works or not, which is mind blowing for me. Because for me, I always want to know, is it valuable or is it not? Is it working or not? So I think that that's a huge market potential. And um, when you're saying, do I kind of want one disease over the other? No, I don't want to be the one making that choice, you know. Um, but again, we don't make that choice to tell you the truth. We just do biomarker finding. We just find the biomarkers. The doctors take that and they set up alerts and stuff in the system for their own, consideration. You're on mute, Charles.
Sorry, isn't it the startup way to like fix one problem, get funding for this one problem, attacking this one disease? Because you can't get great at measuring like all these biomarkers perfectly. I'm pretty sure it's like rocket science to try to perfectly measure like one problem, right? Like, wouldn't it be better to go one biomarker after the other? Once you crack one, then you go after the other.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to distinguish between detecting the biomarkers and detecting the diseases. Okay, so yes, we do one biomarker at a time. Soon we'll have bigger teams, so we'll be able to do multiple. But we have a well-known, well-rehearsed way of bringing a biomarker online. So we've done it enough times that we know how to do it. And then when you relate those to diseases, then a lot of the biomarkers. So I'll just give you an example. Say we're taking just like dehydration. So you're looking for less urination volume, less times going to the bathroom, a darker color, a higher specific gravity. Okay. Now, all those, if you just look at the same biomarkers and you say, okay, well, the volume stayed the same, but the person's using the bathroom more times a day, considerably more times a day, would mean that his prostate's enlarged. Okay, so it's the same biomarker, just giving different kind of viewpoints. You can get different diseases. So a lot of times that's happening. A woman, if she has protein in her urine after the 22nd week of her pregnancy, that's a high correlation to preeclampsia, right? But it could also be a UTI if there's nitrites and white blood cells. So, you know, it's, I think one of the things that I don't think that doctors do well is I don't think they look at things holistically, right? And I think that this gives them the opportunity to look at things very holistically. And then when you're talking about, AI, I think that's where we're gonna use the deep learning and AI. So the deep learning is going to understand the correlation between these things, and regenerative AI will be able to explain to us what these correlations are, because you're not going to be able to like see it in the data. You'll have to be explained.
Love it. What's next for you? What are your priorities as the CEO?
Well, we're on the cusp of going to market finally, and we're bringing our first devices to our first customers for trial. We have letter of intents from these customers to buy significant amounts of the devices once they finish their trial period. So in that time that we're waiting for them to trial it, we're also doing something called DFM, which is designed for manufacturing. So, to create the molds so we can mass manufacture these devices. Because once we mass manufacture, the price goes down significantly. My ultimate goal is in the next round to raise enough funds to manufacture, 1 million devices or something. So I can bring the price down so hard that we give away the device for free and we just take on the SaaS. So that's kind of, where I'm going. And, in about 3 years, that's kind of where I hope to be. I hope people are throwing them in the garbage because I don't know, it cracked or whatever, and they just pick one up from the supermarket. So I kind of hope that that's where we're going to be. It should be like you said at the beginning. It should be in every toilet. Everyone needs to monitor themselves, and you're anyways using the toilet. We're not telling you to do anything special. No, you're on mute again.
Guy, where can people find out more about you?
So, LinkedIn, we do a lot of LinkedIn stuff. So LinkedIn is one place. Our website, you know, or always, I love talking, as you can probably tell. So, just reach out. Guy.Goldman at olive.earth. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about anything, anytime. So, be happy.
That was Guy Goldman and Charles Cormier for another CEO Wisdom podcast.